The Tonight Show came to a halt when a young woman in the third row got up and did something when Johnny Carson was interviewing Tom Selich. What followed left 12 million people in tears and violated every live television guideline. It happened at NBC's Burbank studios on February 12, 1981. That night, while joking with Tom Selich about his new show Magnum P.I., Johnny Carson was at his best until he paused to laugh and noticed something odd. A young woman had risen from seat C in the third row. This was quite unusual in the controlled setting of a Tonight Show taping, where viewers are meticulously instructed on when to laugh and when to remain seated. But it was more than just her standing that caused Johnny to hesitate. It was the expression on her face, which was a mix of desperation, terror, and hope. Determination that was evident to him even from the stage. Sarah Mitchell, 24, was aware that she was not following protocol. She was aware that she would most likely be escorted out by the audience coordinators. She was aware that she might look foolish on national TV. But humiliation doesn't matter when you just have 3 weeks to live. Just 3 months after earning a journalism degree from UCLA, Sarah was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia 2 years prior. She had persevered through numerous experimental treatments, 2 rounds of chemotherapy, and a bone marrow transplant. However, her doctor at Cedars-Sinai informed her family 3 days ago, on February 9th, that there was nothing else they could do. Unable to look her parents in the eyes, Dr. Raymond Chen had stated, 3 weeks, a month, perhaps, if we're lucky. I'm so sorry. Sarah had been surprisingly composed in the face of the news. For months, she had been aware that her body was losing the fight. The next thing she said shocked her relatives. She had informed her mother, Patricia, that she wanted to attend a Tonight Show taping. I want to see Johnny Carson in person just once. Patricia Mitchell had considered it a strange farewell. The majority wanted to spend time with relatives or visit places like Hawaii or the Grand Canyon. However, since receiving her diagnosis, Sarah had been watching Johnny Carson every night. Johnny's monologue had been her company during the isolation of hospital rooms and the anxiety of restless nights. Is giggling her way out? He makes me forget I'm dying, Sarah had just said. I'm just a person watching TV and laughing at jokes for 30 minutes every night. Sarah, not a sick nor a dying girl. It had appeared difficult to get tickets with 3 days' notice. Patricia Mitchell, however, was a woman with a purpose. After making 17 calls to the Tonight Show's audience line in a single day, she finally got through to a coordinator named Linda, who said, "Hold on," after learning the circumstances. Do not end the call. After 10 minutes, Linda was back on the phone. I have 3 seats for the taping on Thursday, but I'm not supposed to do this. Center portion, 3rd row. Are you able to arrive by 4:00 p.m.? Standing in the center of Johnny Carson's show, Sarah was ready to do something that would either be the most audacious or the most stupid thing she had ever done. With one eyebrow raised in that trademark expression that had made 1,000 impressions, Johnny had paused in the middle of his sentence. Are you okay, miss? He inquired, half smiling, assuming she was sick or wanted to use the restroom. Sarah spoke quietly, yet firmly. I apologize for interrupting, Mr. Carson. I'm Sarah Mitchell, and leukemia is killing me. I've got roughly 3 weeks remaining. She stopped, trying not to cry. This may sound weird, but I had a dream that I didn't think was possible. Furthermore, impossible doesn't seem like a valid excuse to give up when you're dying. There was no sound at all in the studio. Tom Selich remained still in his seat. Everyone in the audience appeared to hold their breath. Even Ed McMahon, who had been on Johnny's side for 20 years, appeared in disbelief. Johnny was no longer smiling. Looking down at this young woman who was obviously very sick, he got up from his desk and proceeded to the edge of the stage. He could see the pale, waxy complexion of someone in the advanced stages of cancer, even behind the meticulously placed studio makeup. Her clothing reveals her arms, were as slender as rails. What's your dream, Sarah? In a low voice that reverberated across the hushed studio, Johnny asked. Sarah took a deep breath. Dancing is what I dream about. I loved to dance before I became ill. I've been too weak to dance for the past 2 years. I do, however, wonder what it would be like to dance with you just once every night while I watch your program. One dance only. She was unable to complete the phrase. Johnny watched this dying young lady from the side of the stage. He didn't have a joke prepared for the first time in his career. The internal conflict was visible on his face. The human being facing death versus the professional broadcaster. Sarah, he murmured at last. We're currently recording. We follow a timetable. Commercial breaks are scheduled. When he saw her face drop, he paused. The ensuing scene unfolded so quickly that the producers in the booth were unable to respond. Doc, can you give me something slow? Was all Johnny murmured as he turned to face his musical director on his left. Doc Severson didn't hesitate because he had been Johnny's musical director for 14 years and had never witnessed him straying from a script. Johnny, what do you want? Can you do it for you, boss, given the way you look tonight? Anything. Johnny looked back to Sarah. Come on up here if you're ready to risk your toes, even if I'm not much of a dancer. The audience cheered, but it wasn't the typical Tonight Show cheers. It was the sort of cheer that people give when they see something holy, something that goes beyond amusement. Sarah was assisted up the steps to the stage by 2 stagehands. She was shaking, mostly due to physical weakness and partially due to emotion. Sarah finally made it to the stage, where she met Johnny Carson, the guy who had reassured her on innumerable gloomy evenings. She broke down in tears. Hey, whispered Johnny gently as he took her hand. Don't cry. Dancing is meant to be enjoyable. Johnny grasped Sarah's hand and laid his other palm lightly on her back as Doc Severson and the band started playing The Way You Look Tonight. He was worried that he may damage her because she was so slender. They started to make their way across the stage slowly. Due to years of treatment and the disease eating away at her body, Sarah was unable to stand steadily. She wasn't dying, though, and she was in Johnny Carson's arms while the band played and 12 million people watched. She was moving to the music. As they traveled, Johnny tried to calm her with a steady stream of soft chat. You know, he said, my first wife forced me to take dancing lessons. I was awful. She should have her money back, the instructor advised. Through her tears, Sarah chuckled. All is well with you, Mr. Carson. Give me a call, Johnny. And it's you who is doing well. I simply want to avoid stepping on your toes. The music felt like it went on forever, yet it was also far too short. As he watched from his chair, Tom Selich had to wipe away his tears. Ed McMahon was crying aloud. Many of the audience members were softly crying as they sat in complete silence. Johnny didn't immediately let go of Sarah after the song ended. She faltered a little, worn out from even that little effort, but he kept her firm. Sarah said, "Thank you," in a whisper. "You have no idea what this means to me." Johnny was rendered stunned when he saw this courageous young woman who had bravely stepped up during his performance and risked embarrassment to request one final lovely moment. "No, Sarah, thank you for reminding me what really matters," he finally managed to say. Before going back to the stage, he personally assisted her in getting back to her seat and checked to make sure she was stable. Returning to his desk, he made a statement that would be cited for decades to come while staring straight into the camera. "Ladies and gentlemen," he stated in an emotionally charged voice, "we'll take a commercial break now. We'll complete the show when we return. However, I want you to know that what just transpired was real. Life was like that. The only other thing we do is watch TV. Everyone in the studio knew they had seen something exceptional, but the show went on. Johnny didn't head straight to his dressing room as he always did after the taping was over. Rather, he entered the audience and spent 45 minutes merely conversing with Sarah and her family. Sarah inquired about his early years in Nebraska. Johnny questioned her about her life before to the sickness and her journalism degree. For the first time in months, Patricia Mitchell saw her daughter smile and giggle. Johnny did something before they left that his crew would later claim was totally inconsistent with his personality. He provided his personal phone number to Sarah. He stated, "Call me day or night if you need anything, and I mean anything." On March 10, 1981, 26 days later, Sarah passed away. However, those 3 weeks of decline were not what her doctors had anticipated. There was no explanation for the 26 days of vigor. Surrounded by friends and relatives who had all heard about her dance with Johnny Carson, she watched the February 19th edition of The Tonight Show. Hundreds of letters from viewers who were touched by what they saw had been sent to her. Only Sarah's family was aware of the fact that she received 3 calls from Johnny Carson during the course of those 26 days. Quiet chats between a well-known entertainer and a young woman who is dying of cancer. No publicity, no show. Sarah told her mother, "He asked about my day," following the initial contact. "Isn't it unbelievable? Johnny Carson was interested in my day?" 3 days prior to her passing, in their final discussion, Sarah informed Johnny, something he would remember for the rest of his life. She declared, "I'm not afraid anymore. I had the opportunity to dance. Even though it was only for a short while, I got to truly live. Most individuals never have a moment like that in their entire life. I received mine." Johnny couldn't talk through his tears, so he had to cut the call short. Patricia Mitchell was taken aback when she saw a big